Hi, my name's Tim Ryan. Welcome to the Tim and Jen Show. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Sitting here with my amazing wife, my co-host, my best friend and business partner.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jimenez Ryan. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Oh my God, it's the first full day of summer.
And it's hot
2021.
Balls.
No mask.
No mask,
except
hot.
where it's mandatory to wear them at.
But what's happening out in
okay.
the western part of the United States?
This last week, it's like a heat storm in California. It's crazy hot. But what I didn't know was how bad of a drought we were in. And like, I think it's really important to kind of mention this to people because some people may not realize that the whole western part of United States is in a severe drought. Even like in Chicago.
Yeah, my parents live on our parents live on a lake, and the water is the end of our pier is normally about 4 feet deep. It's about 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
Which brings algae, and it's a shit show.
Yeah.
It's not good, but we are in a drought and we're already getting fires out here.
Yeah.
And they normally don't start till September, October.
Yeah, September. Yeah, we get like fire season out of control, but it's bad and it's been so hot. On another note, I do want to mention before I forget, because I still have COVID brain, but I got to tell you, like, I'm not here to judge, right? I don't judge. I have no personal opinion in a negative way about this, because I know some people make their money this way, but this whole like, what is it called? The OnlyFans?
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I wish you'd set a page up. I could retire.
Okay. So this whole OnlyFans conversation started recently and it's become a joke with us because Tim's like, you can make a lot of money. And then he decided he wanted to create, like, he didn't do it, guys.
I heard it. So if you're not familiar with OnlyFans, people can sign up. I'm not on it. My wife's not on it. But there's some people out there. One of your friends makes $2 million a year.
Yeah.
$2 million posting pictures, sexy pictures, not naked.
So Tim decided last year, he's like,
I told Jen I should
get
get her on it, but I saw some guy on some video and he's showing a picture of his wife and he says, "There's my wife. I'm making $8,000 a month on her OnlyFans page. The only problem is my wife doesn't know she has an OnlyFans page." So he's taking pictures of his wife and posting them up there.
So every day, Tim, for the last week, has been creating, like, in his head out loud, like, to me as I'm driving, he'll be like, "So I think we're gonna do this one. I'm gonna do an OnlyFans page." And yesterday was
we're not. I'm not talking about that one.
The word that you used was so wrong that I laughed for Go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
Jennifer was changing, putting on shorts, and she bent over, and I said, "I'm going to take a picture and put that on OnlyFans and call it Moose Knuckle Lives." So, yeah, I don't think that'd be a good thing to do, though.
I'm just mortified that guys would do that to their wives. Or
I wouldn't do that to you, but
they're actually
we can make passive income on this.
I mean, yeah. So,
I'm looking to diversify.
I mean, listen, I'm not here to judge that whole thing, but it's become this whole ongoing like joke with us.
Okay, then leave it as a joke and don't talk about it on our podcast.
I am so glad that we have been so lucky here in California and in LA, we've been hanging out with friends again. And we've been hanging with a bunch of sober friends and we've been going to comedy shows and watching our sober comedians perform and like badass, legendary comedians. And we've been able to have like double date nights with people in recovery. And it's like, we're starting to build this whole community again in California and Los Angeles. And we've been doing that in LA, I mean, in Florida and stuff. And it's just so good to have couples and to have other people that relate to us. And
oh, speaking of couples,
I know. Good
lead in, Jennifer.
No, seriously,
you get an A for the lead in.
I kind of realized that I was kind of leading into that. I was like, I like this. I'm so attracted to powerful couples, powerful women, powerful men. And our next guest,
hold on. I will say this. A powerful man is always supported by a powerful woman. And I look at my life and I never had powerful women in my life. I had passive, whatever, but I look at where my life is now with you and how you support me in every aspect. And you say things I don't want to hear because you make me look at the whole picture, but to have a solid man, it's always good to have a solid female behind him. And that's what we have here coming up.
Yeah, we do. And I know you want to do this intro.
Nice.
I had the honor of meeting them, and I feel like I know them so well anyways, and they're family to us. But I feel that, you know, I just got to say this without
waiting for it.
So I'm going through a lot. I'm not ready to talk about it publicly, but you have been amazing. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for walking through this with me.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people think that we work with our next guests, but we don't. And I'm so excited. We just always celebrate and we encourage and we believe in what they do. And they, you know, people are like, you guys are great free advertisement for them when we were doing one of our interviews.
Yeah, we're doing.
And like, it's just because they do this so right, the people succeed with them.
But the program is also a program where when I had a Man in Recovery Foundation, we sent hundreds of people to this program. Many of them have turned their lives around and are living a life clean and sober. So without further ado, we get to bring on our next guest, two dear friends of ours. They're like family, Kim and Brian Reddy. Welcome to the show, Kim and Brian. Did I pronounce it? Is it Reddy or?
Ready.
Yeah, like ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go.
I went all the way through high school and I got past because my first name's Brian, so my initials are B Ready. And I made it all the way through school until I got into the recovery world. And, you know, I mean, we're just creative beings anyway, right? So as soon as I got into the recovery center, like day one, they labeled me B Ready. So it's been, it's stuck.
So yeah, and on top of that, you both founded a nonprofit in the organization you run in Greenwood, South Carolina, called Oaks Recovery.
That's right. Yeah, we're coming to you live from the booming metropolis of Greenwood, South Carolina.
You know,
we were talking about you guys today, and I'm like, about how many people do you think went through so far? And Oaks, and Tim's like about 2,200.
Yeah,
is that true?
That's actually spot on. We were doing kind of looking at our statistics, and since 2015, we've had about 2,100 people come through our program.
Wow,
that is unbelievable. And I can't tell you the countless people I know, and the Heron Project through Kevin, and in the lives your organization has touched. I mean, I put my own son through your program, who had been to 3 high-end Taj Mahal treatment centers, and where he got his foundation was sitting there with you, Brian, and the team at Oaks Recovery.
Yeah, we love your son. We love you, Tim. I don't think you guys get enough credit, for the amount of work behind the scenes that you do. Like, you're known for all the things that you do for recovery advocacy around the country. But what people don't see, which I want to praise you for, is just the things that you do on the back behind the scenes, coming out of your own pocket to help support people. I mean, you don't get enough credit for that because, in this industry, there's haters everywhere. When you're doing God's work, you're going to always face adversity, and I've always respected your honesty, your transparency. Jen, with you coming on and getting emotional, I mean, those are the things that I live for. I mean, I got sober, man, and I cry at Folgers commercials. So,
Brian, you still cry all the time. We talk 5 times a week, 3 times. I'm having to talk you off a fucking ledge.
I'm telling you,
I stubbed my toe. Oh my God. No.
Yeah.
I'm giving you shit. So Brian, just give us, before we get into Oaks and all that stuff, tell us a little bit about your journey and how the hell did you end up getting into recovery? Well,
Yeah, sure. On the things that I say tonight, like my life's an open book, anything goes, I mean, being able to, I love that part in the book that talks about our dark past is the greatest possession we have, right? Get a life and happiness for others. So, I grew up in a small coastal town called Beaufort, South Carolina. And, I say some things, and I'm not playing the victim here, but I grew up with a mom that was extremely strong considering her circumstances, I grew up in an environment where I'm the youngest of 3. Older sister has Down syndrome. So by the time my mom was 21 years old, she had 3 children. She fled Europe to avoid the sexual abuse that she was experiencing from her family. So growing up as a child, you know, she developed multiple personality disorder, was anorexic and bulimic. I do not resent her a bit for the things that she had to go through. You know, the trauma that I experienced as a child wasn't my fault, but it was my fault as I started getting older to heal that trauma. You know, I realized that, you know, I needed to be my own hero. And I needed to step up and do the things that were necessary for me to change my life. And I got extremely good for a long time at playing the victim. You know, just, you know, like if you had a life like mine, it was everybody else's fault. It was all these external circumstances that I was looking at out here, that if these changed, then I would finally be okay. But it wasn't until the journey, man, of like being okay internally and facing everything inward, that even though these things out here aren't okay, I'm still okay. So, you know, 8 years old, my mom, you know, ended up going to a facility. She was 79 pounds. She was anorexic and bulimic.
Wow, I'm sorry.
And so from 8 until 11 years old, she was gone to various mental hospitals. What I didn't know at the time was that although I was the youngest of three, I wasn't my biological father's son. I'm sorry, I wasn't the man that was raising me's son. I didn't find out when I was 27 years old, you know, if I'm being transparent here. So I felt different a lot of the times. 11 years old, I got into my first treatment center. And the reason why is because I just, you know, in starting off, I mean, you're talking to a guy that failed 6th grade, was passed 7th grade with straight F's, was expelled from 8th grade, took a whole nother year off. The state found out about it. Family actually got in trouble. So they sent me to I started high school on a military base called Parris Island, which is a recruiting depot for Marines on the East Coast, which is in my hometown. And you know, what's ironic is the guy that actually raised me retired from that military base as a major in the Marine Corps. You know, 2 tours in Vietnam was about as hardcore badass as you can get, you know.
Right.
I mean, he really was. And so when I entered that treatment center at 11 years old for behavioral issues, unfortunately, I was on day 26 of this treatment program. I was sexually assaulted by 2 boys that outweighed me by about 100 pounds in a horrific way.
Oh, man.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you know, and so I ended up getting out of there, going to the hospital, going to, you know, the detention center, or actually the police station, to file charges. And I can remember my mother screaming, saying, "What do you mean you can't do anything? You know, what do you mean you can't do anything?" Because we would have had to go up against this, the actual treatment program.
Sure.
These guys getting help. But, you know, it's so 2 more treatment centers at 13, a locked facility for 4.5 months when I was 15 years old. And then I started my first drug and alcohol treatment center I actually started drugs and alcohol at 15. And, you know, the funny thing with drugs and alcohol is everything that I had been looking for, if I'm being honest, alcohol and drugs probably kept me alive for a while.
Yeah.
I get it. And here the thing is, you're 11 years old. And I'm sorry about your mother. I mean, that's heart-wrenching. I didn't know the extent of that. But you're going in because you have behavioral issues. Of course you have fucking behavioral issues.
Yeah.
Look at the home life you're coming from. No fault of your mother's. She had mental health issues, and you get sexually assaulted. And that trauma really digs deeper. And
well,
then
again, I feel like, I mean, for me, I come from a lot of trauma in childhood, and I can feel your pain, and on some levels, and then others, I'm like, oh my God, like, and I thank you for being so vulnerable and raw and real right now. You said something, I wrote it down. You didn't being okay. You mentioned, and I want to ask you, did you know that you weren't okay? I mean, at 11, like, I look back at my life and I didn't know, I thought I kept walking around going, does everyone feel like this? You know, so I didn't know that I wasn't okay. I just didn't know. I knew it didn't feel okay. If that, and so I mean, I didn't know it didn't, I knew it didn't, I didn't think everyone existed the same way I was, you know what I mean? Like in my early teens. So did you know you weren't okay? Like, did you know that feeling?
I really didn't, if I'm being honest, you know, and I can relate to that, you know, perfectly. You know, I just thought that everybody else was different, that nobody understood who I was or where I was coming from. I mean, I can remember 6th grade raising my hand and asking the teacher if I could use the bathroom and walking home, you know, just because of the, you know, just I was so distant from everybody. I mean, I just kept I did everything that I could with these character defects inside of me to keep everybody here so that nobody could get here. Because if I let anybody hear my experience, showed that it was just going to be pain.
Wow.
You know, that experience that I experienced at 11 years old in that treatment program, it kept me locked in chains for a long time with getting and being able to get transparent and vulnerable and trust somebody, because my first treatment center wasn't a very good one.
Yeah.
So to come into a place and to sit down and to get honest with somebody was extremely difficult. I mean, you're looking at a guy, I've done the Florida Shuffle. I've been all over the Eastern Seaboard trying to get sober, you know, and in early 2009, I showed up at this program. I walked in and I got in front of this guy that would change my life forever. And I sat down and I started explaining exactly what happened to me, all these things, and, you know, coming in, because I got really good, if I'm being honest, at going into these clinical programs and getting these doctors and these psychologists to feel sorry for me, you know, like, oh my God, you poor child, you know, and all this. And I didn't realize it at the time that this man that was about to change my life would become my father. You know, and, you know, I'd get to marry his wife. I mean, his wife, his daughter.
Hey, that's a true friend right there. Guy saved my life. I steal his wife. So tell us about him. What did he say to you that changed your life?
Well, I mean, I walked into his office on day 3 of getting in this program, and they handed me this blue book, and I can remember going to my room and throwing it across the room and started crying. You know, at the time, I had a 5-year-old daughter. She was 5 at the time. Her name was Olivia. And I'm thinking to myself, I've tried the 12-step program. You know, what I was I was a really good coffee maker. I was a really good meeting maker, but there was no program of action that was behind any of that. So my idea of what a program was, or the 12-step program, was meetings. It wasn't, you know, actually doing the work. So I show up at this guy and I get into his office and he said, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I went through the whole, you know, assault when I was in the first treatment center, my mom and all this. And I thought that I was going to be able to get this guy. And he looked at me and he said, you'll never get sober. And I stood up, he stood up and he looked at me and he said, can I cuss on here?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
He said, sit the fuck down. And I sat the fuck down. And as I'm sitting down, he said this I can't even explain the voice that he used, but it was, I love you. And I said, you don't know me. I said, you don't love me. And I said, how can you love me? And he said, let me tell you why, Brian, that you're not going to get sober. And he flipped me that day on the couch and he said, it's not until you stop playing the victim and you start playing the victor that your life's going to change. Amen. He said, who's coming for you? Said, you know, instead of talking about these problems, he said, why don't you let me help you start talking to them? And he walked me through the steps, man, in a way that I had never thought that was even a thing. You know, it was actually the way that it was supposed to be done. And I started balancing 10, 11, and 12 and sponsoring guys and started realizing that, you know, there was some power to what I had been through. That what those kids did to me, for instance, 3 years ago, I was doing a workshop at Oaks, and we had this biker guy that was a resident there. I mean, he had, you know, beard that came down to here with rubber bands in it, tattoos all over, about 55 years old. And I get done doing the workshop and I go outside and it's just me and him, and he comes at me and he falls on me and he's crying in this way that I've never experienced another grown man crying in my life. And he said, I gotta tell you something. And he said, when I was a kid, my family moved me to Tallahassee, Florida. And when I lived in Tallahassee, Florida for behavioral issues, the person that I was living with was trafficking me out for sex to other men for 5 years of my life. Wow. What you said in there allowed me to be able to do that. And that man has 3 years sober today. And he said, thank you so much. But what those kids did to me in that room at 11 years old no longer had power over me. Wow. I knew that God was using that experience. I'm not saying that it was, you know, that's the reason why it happened to me. Sure. But he revealed himself to me many times over because of the things that I've been through. Yeah.
I mean, it's so powerful. Like, I feel like there's a service going on right now. You of all people, right, have every reason to never walk into another treatment center and want to get sober. You had every reason after the first time you went into treatment. Why did you keep coming back? What was it? I mean, because like, if you think about it, I would be like, I get it. I wouldn't go back either. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that there's a, look, I'm a literature guy, right? Like, I love to study literature and I love things that stick out to me. Really, I'm a seeker of truth, right? And there's this sentence that says in the 12 and 12, it says that pain had been my admission price into a new life, right? And what kept running me in there was pain. You know, I love my daughter more than anything in this world. She's my best friend. I do. And, you know, like for me, I didn't want the same thing that I went through for her, or now we have 3 kids, you know, and, you know, so I wanted to break the generational curse, man. Like I knew that I had it in me, you know, I knew that, you know, I could do it. Now I say 12-step program, but I've also done a lot of, other external therapy, you know.
Yeah.
EMDR was huge for me. I'm a big advocate for EMDR therapy, you know, and many other, you know, avenues, you know, just really seeking out these, you know, godly men in my life, man, that I need on a daily basis.
So I'm going to say 2 things here. First off, Brian, to hear from where you came from to where you are now, I think you need to give yourself some credit and your wife for doing this journey, and we're going to get on to Kim next. But I don't think you sit back, and your wife, you guys actually sit back and realize how many families you have touched. If you've had 2,100 or 2,200 people go through your program, you're talking all their family members, all their friends.
Millions.
I mean, your reach is everywhere. And we talk about you guys all the time, but I want to commend you, Brian, because I know when we first met, and we'll get into that, the amount of calls and the amount of time we spend on the phone now, and Kim behind the scenes, and now she's getting in the front line here. But I want to flip it to Kim. Kim, what was it like being raised with the father that was ultimately got into recovery and opened up a program? I mean, you grew up in this, right?
Yeah, sure. So like my father, Steve, he actually adopted me when I was about 5 years old. And I don't think my mom knew very much about addiction or what that was going to look like, raising a family with someone suffering from addiction and also bipolar disorder. So when I was very young, like I'm talking probably about 6 or 7 years old, and he was in the throes of like deep active addiction. I had a baby brother that would have just been recently been born, and I kind of became this like protector of him throughout all the chaos, and that became my my role or how I identified myself for a very long time throughout my adolescence, my early adulthood, all of that. And he got sober when I was probably like hitting the middle school age. And I remember going to Al-Anon and AA meetings with my family, you know, being the little kids running around playing outside while their parents were in their groups.
Can I tell a funny story real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Because Kimberly grew up in the meetings. I was literally having a staff meeting 3 weeks ago. And you know the we version of the Serenity Prayer?
Sure.
And it's just, you know, it's the we version.
Right.
Well, Kimberly, as a little girl, has been in the room so long. Up until 3 weeks ago, she thought it was the we version of the She was like, look, well, what's the big prayer?
I literally, well, and I'll follow that up with something. So yeah, we were like finishing up our staff meeting, and he said, let's close with the we version of the Serenity Prayer. And I was like, after we said it, I was like, what is the like actual Serenity Prayer? Since we always say like the we version, like small. They just all like busted out laughing.
You're so adorable.
But I like, as I reflected on that a little bit, like I never like for a long time, and I'm glad you pointed it out, Tim, like I've always been behind the scenes, like whether it was in my suffering, in the chaos of my life, even in building Oaks Recovery for the first, 4 years, I was always behind the scenes and I didn't use my voice. And like, how many times has it gone through my head that what does the we version of the Serenity Prayer mean? And I never asked.
That's good.
Like, that's, you know.
Go ahead.
Well, I think we keep looking at each other because I mean, you're both speaking my language.
You're,
Like you're telling
you
both
guys
telling
are,
my stories.
your story is so similar to yours.
I mean, I had
it's-
to step in as a parent role, you know, and I played parent, and I didn't realize that that wasn't my role to play, and I didn't know how to be a parent. But that's what we do. We do what we know, and we just, it's survival mechanisms, right? But to be able to, a lot of times I feel like to be able to sit back and yet be a strong woman, no matter what, it just defines who you really are. You know what I mean? Like you were able to get through all that. But, you know, people ask me like, what made you decide to play the big, you know, the mom of my brother, or the, you know, mom of all of them? And I just said, someone needed to, you know. And is that how you felt?
For me, it was how I survived.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have my brother to be strong for. I don't know how I would have made it through that, through those times. And so I really look to that, like him being there, like we really lean on each other even till today, for support. And, you know, I did it for so long. Like it was a survival tactic, or adapting to my environment. But as I grew up and I became an adult and started forming my own relationships in life, it hurt me. It hindered me. It made it impossible for me to truly connect with people and be vulnerable, because I put on this armor of being so strong. I don't need anybody else. If you try to hurt me, I will hurt you first, or I will hurt you worse. And that was something that took me a long time to work through. But like I said, that is who I became. That's who, it was this false self that I was wearing all the time, because underneath I felt a lot.
Brian, I'm sorry, Brian, you can pet your dog. You're allowed to pet your dog.
This is real life stuff.
That's okay. Pet the dog. I hear him saying something, and
Yeah,
everyone's trying to hold her.
He's like, excuse me, I don't care about your
Let him get up on your
I
lap.
need to go to the bathroom.
So Kim, Brian.
So you meet Brian.
Yeah,
you
he
see him.
comes to us
he's
a
doing
client.
You know,
When did you guys start
were
dating?
you like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah,
why?
so he was he had a year of sobriety and was working for the Owl's Nest, where my dad's organization that he founded. And I was actually going through a divorce. I had a 6-month-old daughter, and I played sports my whole life, and I wanted to coach this little league soccer team, but I needed an assistant in order to coach. And so my mom, she really knew Brian. I just knew him as like the guy that worked in the office. I didn't really have much to do with the family business at that time. And she goes to Brian. She was like, "Oh, don't you play soccer?" I don't know how she got that. Maybe it was a conversation. And Brian was like,
I was like, soccer's what I do. I said, you bet your ass I play soccer. Guys, I played soccer for one season when I was like, you know, I don't even know when it was. It was the Paris Island Hurricanes. Now, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, but I can coach the hell out of it.
But I was like, man, soccer, you know, I was like, I'm not going to tell the boss, you know, like, hey, you know, no, I mean, you know, they're asking me to go and help coach with their daughter, you know, so obviously I had my eye on Kimberly before that, but so.
Well, no, when we formed a friendship through that, like there was no like really courtship during that time. We were just two really kick-ass soccer coaches for little 5-year-olds. And I don't think that those 5-year-olds really and their families know what an impact they had on us at that time.
Yep.
Because it was just a really special experience that we shared. And shortly after the season ended, we were actually just talking about it the other day. Brian got me kind of this little gift, that like a little memory gift. And our team had bought us like this gift card to go to this restaurant in Florence, and we decided to go share the gift card together because neither one of us really had a lot of money or anything.
Right.
And that was like, I guess, our first official date. And
well, then I was working for her father, so I had to call him up. You know, I wanted to do things right.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't really know if there was anything there, but I said, hey, so I call up her dad, and it took me a little while to build the courage to do so. And I call him and I said, hey, can I date your daughter, or can I go out on a date with Kim? And he hung up on me.
That's definitely
So,
very accurate.
this is my paycheck. This is, where I'm working. Literally back then we had this staff house that a lot of the staff members were living in, and I had this little single room up there. Not doing much. But if I'm being honest, like he ended up calling back about, I don't know, I say 20 minutes. It was probably like 3. But and he said this, man, it was really cool, because it was the first time that somebody was really seeing who I was. But he said, out of anybody in the world that I would want to date my daughter, it would be you.
Wow.
He gave me the blessing, and that's even knowing a lot of the things that I'd been through. So I thought that was, really cool. So I wasn't gonna miss the opportunity, and I jumped on it. Yeah.
That's powerful. So you end up deciding to leave Oaks, and when we met, you were, Owl's Nest. You were still at Owl's Nest, I think, when we met. Talk about the journey of when you decided to go start this thing called Oaks Recovery. But tell the part, Brian, of where you went there and you find this property and you have no money. What happened?
Well, we actually met after I was at Oaks. I was
Okay, whatever.
Maybe like, but whatever. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, we started sending females to the Owl's Nest because
and I think you were already working. You were already working with your foundation with the Owl's Nest and getting people through there.
Oh, okay.
But then I ended up, so we made the decision that, we wanted to go ahead and do something. And, I was thinking that we were going to launch our program in Spartanburg, but we wanted to do, our focus was affordability, effectiveness, and making sure that we as an organization, we're going to put the people first.
Right.
Who's we? The two of you?
2 of us.
Yeah. So you had this vision as you're at Owl's Nest to do this.
I think that it's important to say, like, my dad was really struggling in and out of recovery there before we left. And, I'd been so enmeshed in my family's struggles for my entire life that I didn't know how to remove myself from that situation. But it had just gotten to a place where I feel like Brian really I saw that he had a vision and a passion that I knew that we could do it together. And it was one of the hardest decisions that I think I ever made for myself and for our family. It was really, really scary. But I know today that it was by far the best thing we could have done, is what we were led to do. And even though it was really hard at first, like we have our, my mom, she just moved to Greenwood 2 years ago, and she's, she actually works for us now.
Go figure.
Yeah. And, I know my dad would be really proud if he was still.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I do want to add this, it was, how back then I would trust God on everything that I could control. Right. Like it's easy to trust God on the things that what the outcome is going to be.
Sure.
But what this did in us, was building that blind faith, in that relationship with that higher power, because when we moved here, it wasn't calling back and saying, hey, I'm just kidding, because there it was so comfortable. My house was taken care of, my vehicle, everything. And I didn't have $1 to my name. I really didn't have anything. I had a vision and a passion, and I showed up on this property in Greenwood. The reason why we chose Greenwood, South Carolina, was because here we have all these incredible industries. Not only that, we're an hour and a half away from any public transportation hub. You've been here a few times.
Yep.
You know how long
you're in the middle of nowhere.
Imagine being a resident getting dropped off or picked up at the airport and driving an hour and a half to the middle of nowhere, and then them thinking
you can't run
a leave treatment and run away from the uncomfortable feelings and get back to that mental obsession. Like it's not really much of an option when you get out here with us.
Right.
So that was a big part of that too. And so I ended up meeting this little old lady, man. Like I just showed up on the property, and there was 2 doctors that were actually, the contract hadn't went through, but they were going to provide the property 30 days, all cash offer, no contingencies. And she looked at me, and we walked to the corner of the property, and she said, I don't know why I'm doing this. I was like, well, I don't have any money. And I said, she says, I'm going to give you a chance. And I said, well, this is what I can do. And I knew the numbers, like I'm a numbers guy. I knew that I can make it happen. And I said, you give me this shot, and I promise you by the end of 2016, I'll purchase this property from you, with it being affordable, for people coming in. And she said, okay. And there's 3 little buildings on the property. And since then we've grown to, we've got 15 buildings on the property now. We haven't raised, you know, anything as far as what our program price is. And everything's been founded on that back to the basic movement.
So
and
just give a quick overview. What is Oaks Recovery?
All right, yeah. Oaks Recovery Center is a long-term residential, true peer-driven recovery support group center. So we have, you know, we have 14 staff members, but we do not deviate from the 12 steps at all. We don't come in with our opinions on how we think it needs to be done. You know, we're really founded on that idea that opinions have the power to kill people. So when a resident gets through a certain, once they start balancing the steps of 10, 11, and 12, they become what's called a senior resident, and their job is to be able to help the new guy that's coming in behind them. We dreamt of a place where with the senior residents, every morning at 8:30, we roll in, we talk about who's struggling, who's slipping through the cracks. And instead of talking about them, we really believe in talking to them. So we go and get them and bring them in. Listen, we see this, this, and this. We've never had an altercation where a guy loses it. What he does is he breaks down because he sees that his peers actually care about him. So with that senior structure, what we've created is the uncool thing to do at this treatment program is not get sober.
Yep.
I've been to so many treatment centers, man, where I sit around and I become the biggest fake ass in the entire treatment center, talking about how many girls I wasn't sleeping with, how much dope I really wasn't doing, you know, caring more about what this group of individuals care about me than I do getting my own 5-year-old daughter back in my life.
Yeah.
Wow. That very
powerful.
profound.
Because we one up each other. I mean, I remember in treatment, I was like, I'm learning so much about how to use more, or like how like I need to be cooler than them, you know, or whatever. And it wasn't that, you know, what you were doing, what you guys are doing there.
I mean, I'm sorry to cut in, but the vocational side too. I mean, so basically when I had my nonprofit, our nonprofit, we sent hundreds of people there, and, you know, to pay for the first 30 days would be like $1,800. But then that gives the client or the guest time to get acclimated, but then you're partnered with all these businesses where everybody gets a job, and then they start paying their own way through the program. So they're learning the life skills, the money management, their time management, accountability. And it's a 4-month program. You also have a short-term 6-week intensive program.
Like a boot camp, right?
You know, hardcore will take you through the steps, no work, and this is all we're doing. And I'm telling you, I had a father call me 4 years ago, and this is exactly what he says. He says, "Is this Tim Ryan?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "My name's so-and-so. I'm a retired psychiatrist and addictionologist. My 25-year-old son's been to treatment 8 times. He's struggling with heroin and this, and don't tell me he needs to go to another treatment center, and don't fuck with me." And I said, "What's your kid struggling with?" I said, "Your kid doesn't need to go to treatment. Your kid doesn't know how to stay sober." He said, "Well, what do you suggest?" I said, "Call Oaks Recovery in South Carolina and send him there." The guy was there, his son was there the next day. He's still sober today. I've seen the miracles. I've seen the miracles, but now
I've seen the change.
The change, yeah, absolutely.
It's like mind blowing to me.
It is, you know.
I think he's trying to talk.
But go ahead.
I just, if I'm being honest, like I really walked in to create Oaks Recovery Center with a chip on my shoulder, you know, because I went down to a treatment center. I remember this in Georgia. It was called, I won't use their name, but when I got there, you know, I had really good insurance up until 27 years old.
Yeah.
Like great insurance. And when that shit ran out, man, my treatment, you know, the posh treatment facilities for me, shit really went downhill from there, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember going to this place and the counselor coming in on day, I think it was like 28. I was supposed to be there for 30 days. He said, "Brian, you're graduating today." And I said, "No way, man." I said, you know, I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm doing great, you know? And they had this little community circle where everybody got around and everybody squeezed this coin and said something really nice about me, you know, went all the way around the circle, and "We're never going to lose touch. We love you." And I walked out of that treatment program and was high the next day. When I looked at the paperwork, it wasn't that I had graduated the program. It was that my insurance money ran out. They couldn't milk it anymore.
Yeah.
They charging $800 a day. I went in there for cocaine addiction, and they gave me Subutex while I was in there for, you know, and I became addicted to opiates when I left there.
Wow. I mean, it's such a mess out there.
I mean, I hear the story, like when you talk about that day that it was your graduation, I will never forget when I started hearing about the Florida shuffle, right? And I started seeing it in Washington and all over Washington, all over Arizona. And I see this kid and he's like, it's my 26th treatment center and I got to get it this time. And I looked at him and I said, why? Why do you have to get it this time? What's different? And he goes, my parents' insurance is going to run out. And I looked at him and he goes, I'm hooked on fentanyl and my parents, I got to get it. I have no other chance. And I went, oh my God, this is what this big pharma, this is what they've done. This is what
it's
they
done.
created.
Yeah.
My life and my purpose is for that soul that you're talking about right there.
Yeah.
Because Billy and I, the way that we hang out, like date night for us, what it looks like is how to develop other programs for Oaks Recovery Center. So like,
we just like nerd out all the time.
Not only
like,
when they
we do not have normal conversations. They're just like super deep.
On how do we get, like, for me, like, small talk, fucks me up.
It
like,
is super weird.
You get weird and vulnerable. Like, I am your guy. Like, I'll talk to you all day long about like deep stuff. But, not only when they complete the 4 months of treatment with Oaks or, that in-house program, then we offer aftercare. And at that point, we individualize. We have a transitional director who, in a sense, is a life coach as well, who at that point will individualize certain plans for these guys. If you got to get your driver's license back, you've got to get your kids back, you've got court stuff. That track is going to look a lot different than the guy who has the license, has these things. Because our main focus is by the time they transition out of Oaks care, that these guys are getting their own apartment. They can afford a vehicle.
Not going back to mom and dad's house.
Yeah. You're teaching them how to live life.
Well, that's the thing. And if I'm going to get honest here, I'm going to get deep. So my whole thing is, people talk about, let's break the stigma. Let's break the cycle. Like, fuck that. I don't know how to fucking break the cycle. Someone needed to teach me that. And I get very passionate about this because we were talking before we started the show, and I know this a little bit about your guys' background is that, you had to do many things, both of you, in order to get better, to get well, to get good, to get present, right? And I think that we need to talk about how do you break the cycle? I talk a lot when we've done other shows about, right now, mental health and this and that. You can say, oh, let's, talk about mental health, but you got to dissect it. You got to know it. You got to understand it. I had to learn why I was the way I was and what Al-Anon was or codependency was and all this stuff and realize that I come from a family that suffers from alcoholism. My father was an addict. Like I come as when I got sober, I was a child of an alcoholics, like of people with mental health. I didn't know that. I just wanted to get better,
but some of the things I think that helped is the people you worked with, Bob Forrest and Dr. Drew, that didn't candy coat shit. And that's what Brian does,
and that's what you do too, Kim. And I want you to
right, absolutely.
We're gonna now start doing. I want you guys to talk about the things that you had to do and what you did as well.
Well, you shouldn't have interrupted me. Okay. And if I want to talk, don't grab me.
I do grab. I'm grabbing.
The point I'm making is, fuck. I don't know. You totally.
Dr. Drew, sugar.
The way. Kim, I've seen you work with, it could be the spouse. It could be the client. Brian, you do it. You know what? We don't talk about them. We talk with them. We get them in. You hold people accountable. You call them on their bullshit. You do it through love and grace. Sometimes it might get heated, but that's what's happening today. That's what's not happening today. Because all these fucking bullshit treatment centers, baby them and cater to them. And, oh, they relapsed again, send them back. Of course they want them to keep coming back. They can keep billing the insurance, And I'm not saying all treatment's bad, but as my wife has taught me, guess what? Everybody doesn't need to go to treatment. I can't tell you how many people we ultimately referred Oaks. And I've told the parents, no, don't send them. They've been to treatment 3 times.
Yeah.
They know what to do. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to stay sober. But what other things?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because not all insurance-based programs are scumbags. No,
there's some great programs.
We've got a list of insurance-based programs that we work for. When somebody calls Oaks Recovery Center, we're never going to leave them hanging on the other end of that phone.
Right.
We are going to find a track that best suits them. And we've done a lot of work to be able to find these places, Tim, through working with you, finding the right reputable places that actually see the soul and not just a dollar sign in their forehead. But what I was talking about with that chip, I just wanted to create something where I can show the world that, look, we can do this, but we've got to get a little bit messy, not be so concerned with, with the paycheck, but the soul. And that we create multiple tracks for treatment, effective treatment, at an affordable price by working with foundations around the country. I mean, we've got guys from Canada right now. Our good friend Bob Marrier, like he's he knows what comes out of Oaks. I mean, I don't know what's in the water in Canada, man, but these guys are rocking it. I mean, they're doing it, man.
They can't drink like us Americans. They party, they drink a Molson or two. I'm an alcoholic.
Every time I talk to them, they refer to Canada as the softer, more gentle country.
Right. Kim, back to you. Can you tell us some of the new things that you've been working on at Oaks Recovery, which I think is
ACA
fucking brilliant? Hold on.
So I just want to touch a little bit. So like we really believe strongly in diving deep and having those uncomfortable conversations with people about not, I think the misconception a lot with addiction is people, especially I see family members, I'm one of them. Like I said, I spent my whole life around addiction and recovery, but yet I did not understand it at all.
Right.
Like, even up to a couple of years ago, I would still resent people in recovery. I resented Oaks Recovery because I never had experienced any type of freedom or healing myself. And so that for me has been huge in my inner work and my transformation. Is really looking into that this isn't just affecting the people who are coming to Oaks. Like y'all said earlier, for every person that comes into Oaks, it typically has impacted somebody in a very deep level, at least 5 other people, at least. And they don't get to go to some treatment center or some place where people help them work through these issues. They're like walking around in the dark without a flashlight and they don't know what to do. So over the last 2 years, I would say, I've had to do a lot of inner work myself, but I've started to seek out other people like myself and finding that we all need support throughout this. And I think that's what really combats the stigma of addiction is people need to understand it and they need to know they're not alone.
And Kim, you're educating the families too. So, like hypothetically, my kid's in there, but you're talking to the mom or the dad and offering them, here, check out adult children of alcoholics or this, or here's a life coach, or here's
working a lot deeper with them now as of recently, actually taking them and helping them out with program services for them.
What you see a lot of the time, and I think this kind of goes back to like I am a clinical certified trauma specialist, and a lot of these family members, they'll start talking to their loved one who's with us. Well, then come to find out they actually had an alcoholic parent, or they experienced some type of trauma in their life. And so really a lot of their responses to what they're going through is just a re-traumatization of what they went through when they were kids too. So it's really, and what you see is these family members have been so focused on their loved one, they have taken every little thing that they need to work on, or it's hard for them, and put it on the back burner, and they haven't dealt with it all. And go ahead.
Well, I'm going to a different topic now. I'm ADHD. I want to know,
because what we've experienced is that the addict literally has a 50% better success rate at staying sober when the family.
If the family gets
hands down, I'm a huge.
This is a family
advocate.
disease.
If my mom,
most of their information that family members are getting is from the impact or experience of their loved one using, or they're listening to their loved one.
Right.
Like their loved one that's the disease of addiction talking most of the time, especially if they're in early recovery. And they really need to be talking to people who are like them, have walked the same path, and mirror for them what it can look like and show them what that freedom is and that healing looks like.
You guys come from Love and Grace and you come from Straight Talk. What do you do? What do you say to the addict regarding some family members that don't want to get better?
For family members that don't want to get better?
Yeah.
Well, we actually just did a workshop on this Saturday, and we really believe that it is our job, whether you're a person in recovery or not, is to mirror what recovery looks like. That's the best way that you can influence your families. I mean, we've had to make decisions even in our life that there's some people that we can't have to love from a distance.
Yep.
It's unfortunate. It's hard if you're on a path and you're moving forward and someone's, they're on their own path, right? But they've got to be moving forward too. And sometimes you can encourage and you can try to say, this is the way, but it really comes out of that individual doing the work.
Okay, I want to ask Brian and Kim as a couple, what have you guys done in your how long have you guys been together now total? From dating to...
We just hit double digits,
Wow.
10 years.
Congratulations.
Woo!
But it's not easy, Brian is a workaholic. But to Brian, it's not work, it's a passion, I get it. But now you've got 3 kids, they're doing volleyball, they're doing this. How and what have you two done to keep your relationship as husband and wife and best friends working together so you're not cross-pollinating, you're not taking this home? What do you guys do? What have you done?
I can share with you. I mean, we actually, the workshop that we did on Saturday at 4:00 was, building healthy relationships in recovery. But a lot of the times when you think about that, and then what, on the back end of that, I was building healthy relationships in recovery by building a healthy you, right? Like everything starts with the internal work. Like for me, so many people take putting recovery first and they take that out of context. Putting recovery first doesn't mean that I need to put my recovery first, which I did for years, by putting Oak's recovery first, by neglecting my family, by going to too many meetings, and I've got to go do this. Putting my recovery first means that I'm going to have the balance for Kimberly, for my children, for Oak's Recovery Center, for these things, because the worst spiritual destroyer in my life is hurry.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that again?
The biggest spiritual destroyer in my life is hurry. For me, I was constantly chasing me. Like if I'm being in this moment with you guys right now, like I don't want to be anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
What I'd like to say is that addiction hasn't done anything to me. It's done everything for me.
Exactly. And when Jen came into my life, she looked at me and she said, "You're a fucking shit show. I mean, you're doling money out to everyone that cries wolf. You're doing this." But in all sincerity, if Jen would not have come into my life, I was probably 6 to 12 months away from blowing my fucking head off or going out and using. It wasn't a thought, but it would happen because I was in a bullshit relationship for all the wrong reasons and this. And once Jen came in, thank God I got out of that, but she made me step back and take a look. And, Tim, you've done all these amazing things. You're 12 step or this, but when's the last time you talked to a therapist? Oh, yeah, I did that. She said, no, really. And she got me working with her therapist.
That's beautiful.
And it's been a fucking game changer. I actually need to make an appointment.
Well,
but John has changed my life to where I'll be wanting to talk about this. He's like, totally pulls me in a different direction.
Yeah.
But makes me look at me and to better. And we've even done, she comes up with this brilliant idea. Hey, let's do a couples therapy. And I said, great. Yeah, no problem. But the night before I looked at her and I said, is there something I need to be worried about? And she says, let me explain. She said, let me explain something to you. She said, let me explain something to you. She said, the reason I want to do couples therapy is because I love you so much. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right and you're doing everything right so we can have the best relationship
Well, we were
possible.
also coming from, I've never been married. I've never had kids. So like I've never been a stepmom and he's not had a healthy marriages. So I wanted it to be the best relationship possible for us. Right. And I said, listen, if I'm going to throw you under the bus, I'll do it right now. I'm not going to go and pay money to throw you under the bus. Like, that's not my thing. It's interesting though, because I keep asking Tim, like, I remember asking you in the beginning and I said, what do you do for you? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, wait, what do you do for you? Like, and so recently I'm like, babe, if we could live anywhere in America, where would it be? He's like, I don't know, wherever you want.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
I'm like, no, babe, where do you want? And so like,
I relate to that so much.
Yeah.
I really do. I spent so much energy and outflow on trying to help everybody else, helping this guy, helping this guy, helping this guy. that, you know, I got into a place too, you know, where it was like, you know, I didn't know how I was going to make it another second.
Well,
you know?
and I think, well, so like 2 years ago, our marriage, like literally, maybe three, almost three, almost crashed and burned because it became all Oaks recovery and the kids, and like there was no like emotional intimacy like in our marriage. Like, and I felt like he didn't see me, but I also didn't try to be seen, if that makes sense. So we did the marriage therapy counseling,
but it was terrible for us.
It was not good for us.
I went in there like, you need to fix her ass. Like,
you need to do something about this guy right here.
I'm glad you guys brought this up because I remember this, and I remember all the phone calls with Brian, and my wife's gonna leave me, and I'm gonna go hang myself. And shut up, you pussy. But I'm joking. But you know, I watch you guys now, and I see the love has grown. You were just in Atlanta, you know, for a night for you two, going to museums. I see that you're doing the deal, and I can remember Brian was joking, going, "Yeah, Kim just went and signed all the girls up for fucking volleyball, and I get to do that for the next 6 months every other day." But you know what? You are so excited to do it, to be a part of it, to watch your girls do volleyball. And yeah, it's a lot of work. Abby used to do all these competitive cheer shit, and I'm like, yeah, this is the last one. No, Dad, we have 3 more in 3 different states. I'm like, but you know what? That's what we do. We didn't know how to do that. We didn't know how to have balance.
I've been really like, and I think you might have saw my post, but I think we are really intentional about spending time with each other, like to really just, and to get to all like know each other, because we are like, we talk about like different seasons in our life, and there's just like so many versions of who we have been already just in our life together and even before that. And so like we have to continuously get to know each other as we grow. And so we really, I like what Jen was saying, like really talking about like, what are the things that you love? What are the things that you like want to do? What do you want to like? We dream together and come up with all these ideas, and we talk about those. We really have started implementing like being intentional too about like checking in with each other, because like for me, I'm the kind of person where if you come at me like maybe I'm like I'm busy or something's on my mind, and you're like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? I get super defensive, right? But if we have a moment, if we're like, say like, hey, on Sundays, let's have coffee on the couch and do like a 5-minute check-in. And that's where we're like, we start having the uncomfortable conversations, or like maybe just unload some of the things that have been bouncing around in our heads that might be about him or somebody else.
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
One thing Jennifer does, and she does it amazing, is she'll come in however she is, and she'll be like, I need to talk to you. I need to vent, but you need to understand this has nothing to do with you. I'm like, all right, cool. And she goes on, and it's all communication, because I'm type A. I go from 0 to 100, and I'm ready to go fucking run you over with the Land Rover, to where.
Thank God he can't drive yet.
30 more days, baby. 30 more.
Come on.
That's awesome.
But on the flip side, I calm down very quickly. We could be throwing knives at each other. Hypothetically, we don't. And 5 minutes later, I'm fine, to where it takes women a lot longer to process. So I'm very cautious most of the time on, is this even worth bickering about? Am I going to get it? Most of it isn't, and Jen said when we got married, I want to enjoy the second half of my life. I want to be happy. And granted, she was a supermodel and an actress and did all this, but there was a lot of dark times. We've all lived in dark times, and I'm here to enjoy the ride. And I
I draw a lot of strength from you guys. I think your marriage is beautiful, and I do. I mean, I love how real you guys are, not only with each other, but with people, like you are who you are. Which works really well for you guys, man. I mean, it's been.
No, thank you. Thank you for what y'all do.
I mean, you guys are huge role models.
Yeah.
And if anyone should be thanking anyone, it's us thanking you, because you move mountains. You move mountains, and you guys do it with so much love and grace and integrity. And we need more of you out there,
And I gotta say, Brian, I mean, I've got 3 or 4 dear friends in my life. You're one of them. I mean, you helped me build.
I cry and fold
But you helped me build a dream and a vision called the Man in Recovery Foundation, and the thousands of families we've helped, and the things we've done. But you've always been a friend and a mentor. in this industry and guided and directed me. And I fucking cherish that, you know. Kim, I love you like a sister. I mean,
Love you so much.
you guys are, I'm inspired. I'm in awe, and I just love everything about you.
Listen, I can't even say this. Like, I mean, without you, you know, I don't know where we would
wouldn't
be
even
today.
be where we are today.
You know,
It
and
takes a village.
because
it takes
of
all of
because
us,
of
for
you,
sure.
right? Listen to this. Because of you, we just, and you had a huge part in this. We all do. I mean, it's the community that builds this thing that we're even doing here, you know, the support. But you've always believed in us since day one. I remember you coming down, man, for that. You and I went up to the gas station, bought all those fireworks and shot them off. You know, I ended up getting shit from the fire marshal after that, but we did it anyway, you know, just to bring some joy to some guys' hearts. But because of you, last Monday, we literally just closed on a property where we're going to start offering women's services. And we're
awesome. Congratulations.
You know, so we're launching Oak Swimming program soon.
We're expanding for sure.
Thank God.
That's the beauty of recovery, isn't it? Like just the evolution of the relationships that you build and what God blesses you on the other side.
Okay, so I'm going to end with this, if you're willing to share it, because when you talk about blessings and all this, are you able to share the blessing when we were in Chicago a few years ago and you took me to a meeting with tell me about that journey and how the land next to you.
Yeah, you know, well, it's just funny. I mean, we had such a direct pipeline to Chicago working with you on the residents that we were bringing in. And I'd been working on this parcel of land next door to us for years. And I'd write them, they'd say, you know, unfortunately, we're not interested right now. I had no idea where they were from. And so I continued to write, nothing. Finally, they came down and they vetted our program, saw that we were the real deal and said, you've got a 5 minute, you better have your elevator speech ready because you've got 5 minutes with Anna Ball, who was the owner of the largest horticulture seed company in the world. And it just so happened to be 20 minutes from your house in Chicago on a piece of property that is directly next door to where we are. So I remember calling you up and saying, hey, Tim, we've got the biggest meeting ever. You know, this is what we're going to do to expand, because with launching this women's program, what that's going to do is give us the ability now to develop that property, which you came to the meeting with us and 5'1" Anna Ball walks into the room and, you know, we were who we were or who we are. And we loved every bit of it. From that meeting until today, every year, her foundation sends us, last year, they sent us a check for $30,000. Not only that, they ended up donating and giving us that parcel of land next door. And what we're going to do is where we're currently housed, and we've done all of this with no money, right? Which is just even better. But like where we're currently housed, that's going to become our alumni facility. We're going to build a brand new facility next door. And what's going to happen is the alumni on the current property will come around and pour into the new residents that are coming through primary care on the property next door.
That all happened from doing the next right thing, helping another person. This whole journey is just amazing, but I'm the best thing I'm glad to hear is that you and your wife have found balance in your marriage, your work life.
Thank you for being so honest about that, because people need to know it's not easy.
It's not easy.
No, it's not. No.
Every day I'm working on it. And last week I had somebody almost T-bone me and I go to say, hey, I'm sorry. She rolls down her window. Kim's next to me and she gets out of the car and says, you ain't fucking see me? And I said, you got to act fucking stupid. And I then got underneath it and I was like, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't see, I don't come on here to claim that I've got perfect recovery. Through the frustrations, I believe those things are gifts from God so that we can look internally and still see the work that we've got to do.
Oh yeah, I've told a number of people off and I've got to work on that. But
well, that's the thing is like, I was like, Brian, that wasn't a reflection of who you really are.
No.
He was like, you don't know me.
I got butthurt real quick. You know, I was like, that felt good. But I knew that was coming from the place of the ego, you know, false self. I mean, it was me looking at her. And instead, later on, I knew that she was right, because that was my opportunity to possibly change somebody's life that, you know, unfortunately, she left there with like, you know, still a bad taste in her mouth for people. But you know, I could have handled that differently, you know, and I was just worried that character defect of, you know, not being perfect and letting her down, you know.
Amen. Amen.
We definitely need you guys back on the show. Like, I'm not kidding, like much more sooner than later. I can't even speak English right now.
There's so many topics we could go down.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
we're going
I
to
know.
because
we
could bring you guys in every month, every 6 weeks.
That'd
But
be amazing.
first off,
That'd be amazing.
oaksrecovery.org, www.oaksrecovery.org is Oaks website. How can people find you guys if they want to follow you on Instagram or social media?
Well, we're only on Facebook. We think that's one avenue is good enough for us. And we have an Oaks Recovery Facebook page. We stay pretty active and pretty transparent on there. We share stories of success and celebrations and the news that we have going on there. We're on social media. You can always follow us or hit us up. All of us we're pretty.
You're open. You're accessible.
We love you guys so much. I do got to do a little shout out though. If my friend George is there, will you please tell him I said hi?
Oh man, we'll let George know.
Yeah, you guys got an amazing
so
staff.
much.
Tell Granelli I say hi. We love you, Rob.
I will tell him. Yeah, man.
I should tell the story, but we'll bring Rob on and we'll bust him out.
We'll bring
I'm
Rob on
staying
with us
out of
next
that. No.
It's not happening.
We'll
No.
bring
All
Rob-
right.
I got you, Rob. Don't you worry.
We want to thank Lux Media, our
Yes.
sponsor. If you want to reach Tim and Jen, dope2hope.com, DOPETOHOPE.com.
And everyone who's listening, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you guys. And again, thank you.
Brian and Kim, thank you for the Tim and Jen show. We'll see you next week. Later. We want to talk to you about Clean Cause, better caffeine. What's in the can? Our organic, sparkling Herba Mate is a premium pick-me-up that won't let you down. Every can of Clean Cause contains 160 milligrams of better caffeine, and each sip supports recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. 50% of the profits go to assist people into sober living. Check out cleancause.com.
Seaside Palm Beach is an executive luxury addiction treatment center located in Palm Beach, Florida. Our private clients come from all over the world, including business executives, professional athletes, celebrities, and more. Seaside Palm Beach offers first-class amenities and high-end accommodations, including a gourmet culinary experience, ocean views, pet-friendly facilities, and access to cell phones and laptops during your stay. If you or a loved one are struggling with addiction, please call us at 877-959-5053. Again, that number is 877-959-5053.
Now, glutathione is a big word, but it's the body's own master antioxidant. So it's a scavenger for free radicals, for bacteria, and what's relevant now, viruses. This is new to the marketplace. There's no other product on the market that has the ingredient NACET.
And basically NACET increases the production of that glutathione that is in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system and keep it strong. Elevated sense of well-being, supports muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, powerful liver support, energy, helps blood sugar regulation, superior bioavailability of key ingredients.
One of your best defenses against COVID is a strong immune system. Taking GSH Plus as a daily supplement does all that. And now we have the product out on the marketplace.